Hello, everyone, and welcome to Day 6 of the NASPA Tournament of Champions presented by Scrabble GO. This is our second semi-final matchup, and I'm here today with expert Matt Kanik. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I am so excited for today's matchup.
Yeah, this should be an excellent one with two players who I don't think have ever played before. I should have looked this up, I guess, but we are going to see Austin Shin against Jackson Smiley. Now we get to see them battle it out to play Cecilia Lee in the finals. So let's go to the players now. They are ready to get underway. And let's have a bunch of great games of Scrabble. We could have 4 if someone sweeps. We could have 5, 6, or 7, though. This is the best 4 out of 7's match. So Austin draws EFIILMO. Matt, what would be your objective with a rack like this?
Well, certainly we'd like to get rid of at least one of the I's here, and probably one of those, probably the O as well. I just don't see any reasonable scoring options out of this move. So Austin's probably just going to make a smaller play, something like maybe Philo, F-I-L-O. Oh, you know what? I did miss Filmi, F-I-L-M-I.
Oh, very nice word.
That's 28 points, but it does leave E-O, which is not a good leave. So it looks like Austin has set down F-O-L-I-E, and I'll go ahead and break it now. If you're with Austin, he is one of the top players in the entire world, but coming from the UK, he's used to playing with the international lexicon, which is a much larger set of words. Now, pretty much every word that is valid in the North American dictionary that our players are playing with today is also valid in the CSW lexicon that Austin has played. But there are many words in CSW that are not valid in TWL. So because this tournament is void, Scrabble GO tells you if your play is valid or not. I bet we're going to see a lot of that from Austin. He'll find a word that looks good, like F-O-L-I-E. He'll put it down and be told he can't play it. And I think we'll see a lot more of that. But Philmi, I think, is still a very solid play. He might end up drawing some bad letters after holding OE, and it looks like he does end up pulling a vowel-heavy rack. But it's 28 points. I think that's a play he's got to make there.
Yeah, the points really do matter there. Unlike whose line is it anyway, I guess. But Jackson looks like he might be trying batement now. I don't think that's valid, but
it is not.
So he will take that back. He may see the double-double of ambient. That would not be a bingo, but as a reminder, a double-double hits 2 double word scores, making it ×4 instead of just ×2. So that would be 44 points. It would be an excellent play. One other thing to add to Matt's point about trying words, you can see when words highlight in green, that means they are playable on Scrabble GO. If it is red, it is not playable. So we actually saw last night a subword that the player was going to play. Jason Keller was going to play Toodles, and he saw Oodles was valid and decided to go with that because he thought, oh, that actually might be even better. So there definitely is some psychological things that could be going on with just visually how valid words display in the app. And so Jackson does find ambient, and he picks up a blank with it, so he will almost definitely have a bingo next turn. I see turnover through the end, for instance, but we have Austin's turn to deal with first.
Yes, Jackson's going to have a lot of available next turn. He'll certainly be. Jackson was probably set up his rack. He was looking for abetment. He needed an E to hit that word. He also possibly had abutment if Austin had put out a U. So kind of a bummer for Jackson that the only vowel he got to play through was an I when 2 of the vowels available would have given him a bingo. And ironically, Austin did leave an E on his rack. And if he had made the play he wanted to, fully, F-O-L-I-E, Jackson would have hit the E that he needed. But ambient's still fine, 44 on your first play, and then picking up a blank. Jackson is in pretty good shape early on in this game, but Austin does have a nice bailout play. He picked up 5 vowels on this next turn, but hoodie, making HM and OI, looks like a very good play for him.
And it looks like he's going to try
another CSW word. Yeah, Hoid, H-O-I-E-D, which is not valid in TWL. I did say we'd be seeing probably a lot of that from Austin. And it has to be pretty frustrating for Austin having these plays that look really good and then being told, oh, you're not allowed to make that play. So I wonder how that's going to affect the psychology for him.
Yeah, so one interesting idea is hoodie versus ho, which he laid down first. Hoodie is definitely a lot more dangerous. You can see that by the double letter score that goes directly below the E. Something like an H, an F, or a W can go there. And if you hit it to the triple, then you're multiplying a double letter score times 3, so that letter's times 6 one way, and then you also get the up direction too, making the 2-letter word. So you're actually getting that 1 letter times 8. So if you play an F there, the F would be worth 32 points alone. So we are simulating it now. And as a reminder, Quackle, our Scrabble engine that we use here, at first we're sorting it based on a predetermined algorithm based on points scored and the value of the letters you leave. The simulator allows us to factor in board dynamics and such. So it looks like he's now going back to Ho, and it's really close in the simulation. Matt, which of those two would you prefer?
This is such an interesting turn, and you can see that this points apart. Originally, it had them 8 points apart before factoring in the defense, but that just shows you how terrible Hoodie is defensively. 6 points worse just based on the big spot it opens up and the floaters it gives Jackson to bingo through. I tend to be a defensive-oriented player. I still would have chosen to play Hoodie there, actually, just because I'm really afraid of the vowels that I held after H-O-E. D-E-I-O looks like you're going to draw into trouble pretty often, and maybe Austin can get out of this one. He's drawn Ejido, E-J-I-D-O, but that's still going to leave him with E-I, and he's going to be stuck with these vowels. So I wasn't a huge fan of Philmy. I think he had to make it given what he had, and I don't really like Ho because you just get caught up in these vowels, and vowels limit your scoring options. They only score 1 point. Maybe he'll come back to regret this play, but maybe not. I bet Jackson would have had at least one double-double available through Hoodie. So there we go, seeing the defensive merits of a play like HOE.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough one. I mean, he's also holding the D, which is a back hook to Ho. As a reminder, when we say hook, we mean one letter that can go either before the word, that's a front hook. So an S for shoe would be a front hook to Ho if it does play on this board. And in this case, the back hooks are much more reasonable. So it can take an S, it could take a D. Can it take an R as well? I forget that one. Is hoer a word?
It is valid. So 3 back hooks. Looks like Jackson is trying. Oh, he knows Phil Mize is valid. Very nice.
Is Phil Mick also a word? I was wondering about that one too.
It is, yes. So 2 back hooks there. It's a word that looks like it might take no hooks, but it actually takes 2. And Jackson is looking for different options. He finds Restrove and Phil Mize for 72 points. It looks like he had available higher scoring options like Evertor, but you don't want to make that play. It's at J1. It plays down, making Hoer with the last R, but it would open a triple. It would put an E in the third spot in that triple line, and that's just not a thing you want to do if you can avoid it. So I think Jackson very happy to sacrifice 4 points in order to avoid giving Austin a massive spot.
Meanwhile, Austin
has drawn another bingo rack. He's drawn Sinuate and Aunties. So it looks like Jackson might just run away with this one.
Well, the key is he's going to put another letter in the triple lane. As Matt explained, that's a very dangerous spot, possibly. He could play Aunties, making Hose and Ray. So that could come down, and if Austin picks up the right tiles after a play like a Ejido, it could be a lot more favorable for Austin than seems right now. And he draws Wrinkle, so we'll see.
Oh, wow. We're just drawing bingos left, right, and center.
Oh, he's looking at Restroven as a hook and Restroves, but he might have to play Aunties, making those 2 words of Ray and Hose. Are you seeing any other bingos here, Matt?
I see very poor options through the R and Restrove. He could play Urinates or Urinites, but that puts an S in a triple line, which is probably even worse, and those options score significantly worse. So I think in this situation, Jackson's going to have no choice but to play Aunties, making RE and Hose, and putting that A in the triple line.
Yeah, so he's putting the word down now. That will give him a very nice lead. He's already up 116 to 85, a 31-point lead. By adding 72 more, will only increase it to an over 100-point lead. So it is 188 to 85. We'll see if Austin can play a bingo here. I haven't looked intensely yet. Are you seeing anything?
He has Wrinkler through the R in Restrove, which I believe is valid. But that's going to open up another triple line, and this board is just going to be very open, at least for the short term. It looks like once those triples get hit, we're actually going to have a very closed board because Restrove has no back hooks, and we can't overlap the V down at the bottom of Restrove to play down to that triple. But
so
I believe
I don't want to interrupt, but it looks like the engine does not have wrinkler as a word, so I'm wondering if that's invalid.
It must be invalid then. I am for that.
No, it's okay. The stream has seen me make these mistakes plenty of times. It's definitely hard to know all the words. I mean, for commentators, it's one thing. For players, it's an even tougher thing. So some of these players definitely might feel a lot of the pressure being off that they can try things like wrinkler just to make sure. But yeah, that would definitely change things a bit for evaluating this turn. Although, as you're seeing a lot of the top plays suggested by the engine, the A that Jackson gave Austin does allow for a lot of scoring in that sort of scoring never stops way Austin likes to play.
So this is, I'm personally impressed by trying to lay down wrinkler. Like, you know, it's free to check, and it's impressive flex of word knowledge to not even consider putting that word down just to test if it's good. This means he's studied it before or looked it up before and is very confident in his knowledge. So it looks like he's trying some other things through the A now. War-like seems to be Quackle's best option, and that's what he's going to end up finding and probably playing.
Yeah, it looks really solid here, but it will be tough to get bingos down unless it's through the 8 lanes, through the N and T of Aunties or through the ROVE of Restrove. Those are going to be the most likely spots for bingos, so I think Austin realizes just score a bunch now, get it to within a bingo, and if you can keep scoring like this, you don't even need the bingo. So it makes a lot of sense to me. And he pulled, and if you're drawing 6 tiles, it's a pretty good pull he got. And is Ecotonal a word actually? Because if it is, he'd have that for the T.
Yeah, Ecotonal is valid, so he's drawn that. I think there's probably other bingo, but I don't see another N. Probably not with that R either. But Ecotonal is available. I'm not sure what Jackson's going to be able to do about that. Where do you think he's going to play this rack? What options do you see, Morris?
Yeah, this is a really tough one. I doubt he's going to play there either. I'm not seeing anything really through that T. So he could do something like Uzi through the O and Restrove if he wants to start keeping good bingo letters. I'm actually not seeing a big... Oh, Zoom is available too. So Zoom might be worth more points there. But yeah, it looks like through the T, I'm not seeing much. It looks like he's kind of drawing dead there.
Yeah, so you can see on Quackle, Jackson has many options. Right-hand column at the valuation. They're all within about 2 or 3 points. And these are some of the toughest turns in Scrabble because they can really dictate the flow of the game. One of the options for Jackson is Azo down at the bottom, making AE and Restrove. That's going to open up the board quite a bit. And it's going to hold IPRY, which is a lead that could end very well or could end very poorly for you. There's a play like Apiary over here, which looks like Jackson's considering. That looks like a really solid option because it sets up AZO on top, making ZA and OP if Jackson pulls another A. And you can look at Quackle, it says there are 6 unseen A's, so his chances are decent of pulling that. But Apiary takes, the J is out. Apiary takes a front J, but it's already been played, so he doesn't have to worry about that. Many different things Jackson can consider doing here. I think Apiary is a really fun and creative idea, and given what Jackson has shown us already about thinking down the road, what are the options I can pull, and how worthy are those options of fishing for? I'd be surprised if he doesn't play that. What do you think, Morris?
The one play to monitor on here is Zonery, because that would be the one play that could block Ecotonal. Through the N in Aunties, that could be the big swing. But again, Apiary has a lot of merits if you don't know what Austin's rack is. So Apiary looks good from Jackson's perspective, but if he somehow thinks that that area of the board is risky enough, zonery would be an excellent play.
You can see Austin has arranged Ecotonal rack. He certainly sees it. It even puts that C on the double letter score. So that's a bingo that's going to score quite a few points for him if he's able to get it down. Man, if I was Jackson, I would probably sit here for a solid 7 or 8 minutes trying to figure out what to do and be like, man, I just don't know. They all feel the same to me. And I don't know which option I would pick. It probably depends on my mood and maybe a kind of tell I have from my opponent. It's tough coming after Austin plays off 6 tiles too, because his rack is more or less random. Sometimes you can decide what you want to do. If your opponent's playing small, dinky plays, you can assume they're close to a bingo. And if they're playing longer words, or if they've dropped 3 vowels and no consonants, maybe they have ugly stuff. So Austin immediately puts down Ecotonal, very confident that that's the highest scoring available option. Jackson's setup kind of backfires on him. He doesn't pick up the A that he was looking for to hit Azo at the top. He does have an N to hit Napery. Thank you to Josh in the chat, and Jack as well. I don't know why I didn't think of that at the time. But Jackson does hit was, W-U-Z, one of my least favorite words in Scrabble, and it is 50 points. Now, I say was is one of my least favorite words in Scrabble, but if you have was, getting rid of a W, a U, and a Z together, and it almost always scores superbly. Like, it can become your favorite word, and I'm sure right now it's one of Jackson's favorites as well. But then when your opponent does the same to you, man, that stings. They get rid of terrible letters and score a ton in the process.
And meanwhile, Austin could play something like savoring through the A in Ecotonal. So it looks like he will likely see a bingo here. What other words are jumping out at you, Matt?
Wow, lots of options right now. You can see he's down the Japer. Oh, he's checking Japer. What threats exist? Oh, and papery as well. Wow. I have to look up the hooks on papery now. That's cool. Wow, and Jackson has a P right now. Wow, fun stuff. I don't know. Austin has a lot of potential with this rack. Usually VOG together is not something you're thrilled about, but throw in an R, S, and a blank, and you've got a lot more synergy. Quackle says really there's just savoring available, but it's so difficult to know that as a player over the board. So I think we'll see Austin spend just a little bit of time here looking to see if there's anything better that he wants to do.
Yeah, I guess one question is, though, even though savoring in the other spot is 11 fewer points, is it worth it to block that lane now that Austin knows there are 3 front hooks to apiary?
Absolutely not.
Okay, interesting.
Austin is down by enough. Even if he can go down, it's going to be high game, but it'll be Jackson's turn. So still advantage Jackson. You can't play defense when you're losing. That's an insane strategy, especially in a situation like this. This is a best of 7 matchup. Spread doesn't matter. Austin is certainly going to grab the points here. I would be mind blown if he doesn't.
Yeah, I think that's the right idea. The one other thing this does, though, is this savoring does allow for potential big triple plays back as he starts laying it down. You can see it slots an I in the triple lane, and that could be conducive to a lot of high point consonants going in that hefty double letter score. So it could be a big spot, but yeah, it's 11 more points than the other spot. I think you just have to hope for the best.
And when you think about a spot like savoring just opened up with 2 squares further away, you want to look at X and Z. Now, in this particular, Q's not a big threat there. You can't go QI, anything, and extend to the triple. But the J, the Z, and the X could all really hurt you there. The J and the Z have been played, and the X is probably the hardest to get to fit there. Now, Jackson actually has it, but of course he doesn't have a play that extends through it. So it'll be interesting to see if Jackson decides to cash in the X here or if he wants to sit on it. He has Pox available for 43 points. Oxlip is a really good way to get out of that rack, but Oxlip is going to open up some stuff. Oxlip opens up a back S hook that Jackson's not sitting on. I'm talking about Oxlip making GO underneath savoring and playing down. That opens up 2 available triple words at the same time. You can play behind GO and hit the triple word in the middle on the right side, or if you have an S, you can play down at the bottom. So that's a very volatile play, and with 2 unseen S's, Jackson can't feel thrilled about having to make that.
Yeah, I mean, Jackson might also be noticing how valuable the P could be on this board. It's just with the papery hook, that is a very juicy letter to have, especially because there are no J's.
Right, where simultaneously it is and it's not. I don't see to cash in that P unless you're going to hit a 7-letter bingo down. You would need like SP something to maybe cash in on that double letter. A play like OPA is just like a non-factor, really. That just doesn't score enough to be super excited about holding a P. And with both blanks out, what are the odds that Jackson's actually going to end up pulling a P bingo there with papery? I don't think it's as important a spot as it may seem.
Yeah, that's a good point. But it looks like Jackson is electing to keep the X right now if he does lock in Philo as his play. And that would give him the lead again, and he'd still be keeping some pretty high-scoring tiles. It seems pretty sound to me as an option.
It's interesting. Like the X is a pretty good tile, but the X changes a lot based on the board. There are some boards where the X is amazing, and there are other boards where the X is relative garbage. And I just don't see a lot of good places to put the X on this board right now. Now, of course, that may change. Who knows what Austin's going to end up playing next turn? But the X doesn't seem to be a huge factor for Jackson right now. I think really, though, that one scoring spot right there on the triple word is about the only good, solid scoring spot left, except for available options making ambience, backhooking that. So, Jackson probably wants to knock out that spot, and he doesn't have a lot of good choices to do that. Pox and Philo, I think, are the only two.
Yeah, so he locks in Pox, probably realizing, as Matt was pointing out so eloquently, that the P, it looks cool at first, but isn't quite as good if you actually think about what options can go there. So, meanwhile, Austin has a much less fortunate draw for him with 3 Ds on his rack. This is a tough one, Matt. Would you play something like Oda, Dom, and Odd off of Egido? Parallel to
well, that? I just want to point out really quickly that Jackson picked up both S's on a 3-tile draw. And S's are huge right now for that ambient spot to give you the flexibility to open if you need it. Now Austin's not going to be able to open the board over there in a way that scores, and Jackson's already got a lead. So that is a huge, huge thing that just happened, to pick up 2 S's on a 3-tile draw. Austin's in pretty bad shape here, too. This is a disgusting rack without ways to score points, without ways to clean it all up at once. Actually, it looks like Gadoid is a way to clean up this rack, but that is also a terrible tactical decision, I think. Gadoid would be through the A and apery, and it is just asking for Jackson to destroy you on the triple word score next turn, slotting a vowel next to that double letter and allowing him to play down easily with overlaps. So we'll see what Austin wants to do. He is a very, very good player, and he probably has a very good feel for how bad shape he's in. How aggressively do I need to try and open this board? Or, heck, do I need to open this board at all? He has to decide right now. I'm down 30, it's my turn, but I've got garbage. Do I play to bingo? Do I play to make some weird stuff happen? Do I pray that I draw one of these S's? Or do I just keep things tight and see if I can claw my way back into this?
Yeah, one thing about Gadoid that hasn't been mentioned is the I actually is hard to front hook with the contents of the bag to some extent. Both M's are gone, all the O's are gone, so OI is out of range. So it's not quite as dangerous as it looks, I think, at first glance, but yes, point taken for sure. It definitely opens up a big spot, and if you're going to be down on tempo like Austin, you don't want to give Jackson one spot and then be left with no spots after. So I don't know if actually Austin having the last O has any significance here. It's pretty early in the game to not have that tile anymore, but I don't think there are any large hooks with that could affect the game at this point. But we'll see, I guess.
This is such a hard decision for Austin, man. I do not actually very excited to do here. I think this is an educational position for a lot of people at home, myself included. I might be considering ODD over on the left side, making Oda and Dom like we saw Austin put down at first. I don't think I'd make a play like God, making GI, ODA, and DOA, because I think that's just going to lead to the board being very closed, very fast. A play like Did at least leaves the A floating, and you can play with that later. I don't know. This is really, really tough for he's spending a lot of time on this turn. He probably doesn't feel good or comfortable with just about any of these plays, but he's going to have to do something.
Yeah, and so I wonder, one outside option that he could be thinking about is he keeps the O and the D to possibly play through the XI, because oxid is a word and oxide and oxids are both words. So he might like keeping the O here also for that reason and playing the I instead. And he does draw into oxide, which will score a lot for him next turn and open another pretty good bingo lane that he needs right now.
That's a very good point. And oh no. Oh, Jackson's got both S's and he sets down Ixia for 11. It's going to be tough for Austin to deal with that spot. This is what I said earlier. Jackson such a creative player. Very few people could see something like that. So I don't know if Jackson's just going to play Ixia for 11. He could play Ixias as well, but that S is a really dangerous tile for Austin to bingo from. And if you're Jackson, you're in the driver's seat in this game for sure right now. You don't want to give Austin an S to bingo from. Little known fact maybe, but I think more words start with the letter S than any other word or any other letter in the dictionary. So despite the fact that you think, a lot of words are going to end in S, no, a lot of words start with S too. It's very dangerous. I bet Jackson does play Ixia here. And oh man, this is why Jackson Smiley is such a fun player to watch.
Yeah, if we could add that to the simulation, that would be really good. Just because this looks like right now it's considering plays that score a bit more. Again, so we actually just got word from our producer that Ixia is included in the sim, but it's simulating poorly because it keeps 5 consonants. So all of these more standard plays actually are evaluating better for this board and tile pool, etc. So it looks like Jackson rightfully deduced that. That's why he's not playing Ixia right now. But it's such a creative idea. And as Matt mentioned, this is why we love watching Jackson.
I will point out that the unseen pool right now, there's 27 in the bag, and 13 of those are vowels. So for Jackson to miss a vowel twice, I think it's less than a 25% proposition. He'll probably draw at least one. But when you're in the driver's seat, is that a risk you take? It's a really cool option, but like 25% chance to be royally screwed on your next turn. I don't know that that's a thing you want to do.
Yeah, this is. He has a lot of ways he can go here. I mean, I'm surprised that Fails is simulating so well, just because it opens a few lanes that would be really annoying if your opponent had something there. I like this idea a lot from Jackson to close down that key spot while keeping both S's. This seems like a really solid idea to me, playing Annal and Napery.
So that's what Jackson's going to do. He's going to take the low risk, low variance play. I still think, Jackson for considering and thinking about Ixia there, and probably hats off to for not choosing to play it as well. Just really cool stuff going on. Another scary thing about Ixia is it telegraphs super clearly to Austin, I have the last 2 S's. And when I think this game is really going to come down to who can hit that spot with ambience, giving Austin the knowledge that, well, I have it and you'll never draw it, is huge, because Austin may play through a lot of this game thinking, well, if I get it, then this can happen. So Austin comes down with Oxide, and we've got, a tie game on our hands? Or 10
point, yeah.
10-point game, Jackson's turn, but Jackson, again, holding the stuff he needs for ambient. So he's going to have to decide, when do I pull the trigger on this? Do I cash it right now with, oh my goodness, Unwarlike?
Warlike?
That is a thing you would never, ever, ever try in a tournament. But hey, this is a void tournament. This is territory. I think it might be the first major void tournament we've had. Oh man, I would love to see Jackson try that, and I would love.
We need Eric Tran here, honestly.
Oh, yeah, we need Eric Tran super badly right now. Oh my goodness, unwarlike.
Yeah,
Wow.
so I mean, yeah, like I think that was on no one's radar, especially not Austin's when he played it. So
we need to make a note of that for post. I want to ask both of these players if they ever, even thought about that situation. I know some of the elite players, and these two players are absolutely elite. Some do study nines, some study extensions, but with a U and a W and a K, like I really wonder if either of these players know that word.
Yeah, it is a really weird one, just because unwar isn't a word. So you would never think to add like after that, unless it means something completely separate from like warlike. But I'm guessing, yeah, it's a very strange word like that. So he plays the more human option of fangs, and even though he keeps a U, he draws the Q. So that could be very key for him coming up here. And it looks like Austin's going to be trying a non-NWL word.
Right. So Austin's got to be frustrated if that word isn't Collins. That's an amazing option that makes it. Instead, he's sitting there thinking, man, now what do I do? It's got to be frustrating to the psychology. And I bet over the course of 7 games, as we see Austin continue not having good plays available to him, if it messes with his head, if he starts to get frustrated. I think Jackson is super relieved to pick up the Q here, because I think that one of the biggest drawbacks about Fangs is if Austin has a QUA play, that would score at least 68 points. And Jackson, that's one of the only ways he loses this game, that or a bingo through the E, or maybe through the F or the A that Jackson's up. So Jackson has to be feeling pretty relieved that he knows now Austin doesn't have it, and that Jackson, is going to have some decent options with the Q.
Yeah, so if we could cut to the tile pool from Austin's perspective, that would be great. So there are 8 tiles in the bag. When you see 15 unseen, that means 7 are on Jackson's rack and the other 8 are in the bag. So we know specifically that most of the tiles here that are consonants are in the bag rather than on Jackson's rack. Jackson only has the Q and the S on his rack of the consonants. So he's looking into a lot of nice letters. The R is a great letter for him. Specifically, I guess the R and the H, if he could somehow get rid of the B, G, and Y this turn, although that looks a bit tough. I guess he could play Gaby through the A and Fangs. That could be an option there.
Yeah, this is tricky for Austin. One thing he needs to be thinking about for sure is the Q. How much trouble am I in if I draw it? And how much trouble am I in if Jackson has it? Another thing he wants to be thinking about right now is that unseen pool. There are 8 vowels and 7 consonants in it. So he needs to be careful about what he does, and underdog territory right now. So he needs to be thinking like, probably the only way I win this game is if Jackson has something bad. So what should I be hoping for? What's left for me if Jackson has that? And how do I win this game? Austin makes what I think is a really good play, scores a lot of points with Signet, and we'll see what he picks up. He picks up Bateau as a 7-letter bingo, Batteau, but I think this board is too shut down to be able to put that anywhere.
Yeah, although he did give himself a nice spot for the B. I guess he could play BA next turn. BAA, that is. That's going to be one of the higher scoring spots in this board, but it might not be enough to win here. Austin is down by 18. Jackson leads 381 to 363, and there are 3 in the bag left. So if we could see from Jackson's perspective what the pool is. So he is looking at a somewhat scary group of letters. I mean, he has to see something like Earth Nut starting with the E in Oxide and be somewhat nervous about that. And it looks like he's trying Disc.
With
a QUE.
Just want to verify that is not. We saw Jackson have a situation like this against Sardella in the final in the final game, and Jackson looked at the unseen pool. Granted, there were 8 unseen instead of 10, and he actually identified every possible option that that Cesar might have. And
I think there were 9 unseen actually. Yeah.
Oh, were there 9? Wow.
Yeah, yes, I remember there were 2 in the bag.
Right. So I think Jackson, probably looking at this unseen pool, sees there's only 4 vowels and they're not, super good. And the F is really hard to play through. So maybe he's assuming that there are no possible bingos for Austin through that F. And he's just going to go ahead and knock out the E, eliminate that threat. It looks like he's choosing to hold AIQUS. So I bet, knowing Jackson, that leaves him with a nice play that he feels he can score a lot of points with next turn. Or maybe he holds QIS and signets, and he also holds the U just in case. I'm not sure why he would play GEE over GAE. I guess the A goes a little bit to the Q than the E does.
Well, he's setting up AG to make Aqua if he draws one of the last 2 A's. That could definitely be in the cards if QIS is blocked.
Oh, Shad points out a T pulls Daiquat from the D for about 75 points. This is why I love watching Jackson play Scrabble, man. He is so smart. He's so good at noticing all of these things, and he does it so fast. That's what's really impressive about Jackson. I think G is such a cool play. Knowing what we know about Austin's rack and Jackson's rack, he's got this game in the bag, but Jackson certainly doesn't know that. That E is very threatening. And, oh my goodness, Okay, he also sees a G at the top. Wow. So he's got a lot of options. He picks a G instead. I guess maybe he's done the math and he figures even in the worst case scenario, if Austin has Earth Nut or something.
No, he'll lose. That emptied the bag.
Oh, he emptied the bag. So he's just taking a shot. He's, okay, I just hope he doesn't have.
Yeah, for whatever reason. That would also be a great thing to ask about them after the game, or after, I guess, this match. Just what was your thought process there? Because he just had to realize that whatever opportunities he's limiting by playing G, the can of worms it opens of what Austin could have after that could be just bad enough that play AG, and as long as he doesn't have a bingo, or as long as Austin doesn't have a bingo, that is, Jackson's going to win. So,
yeah, not totally sure I agree with this play of a G. I guess one thing that's scary about GE is it does leave 1 in the bag and Austin's able to fish, but I don't see a good way for Austin to open a line to bingo through. So I actually think Jackson maybe gave away a couple points of win percentage with that play to maximize his spread, which is strange. A G makes sense in a tournament where spread matters, but here, spread doesn't matter at all unless there's a tie.
Yeah, so I don't know what other bingos there were available. If it was just Earthnut or a very small group of words, then Jackson might have realized that by playing G, if he doesn't draw one of the right letters, if he doesn't draw an A or a T, and Austin blocks the S potential off of Signet, Jackson might have nowhere really to play his Q, and he could be looking at a loss. I think that has to be what it is, because G only scores 6 points also, so it really, he had an 18-point lead before the turn. A 24-point lead when it's your opponent's turn really isn't that safe a win. So I think he probably evaluated, as cool as G looks, AG might be actually the better play if there aren't that many bingos through the E. That's at least what I would deduce from that.
If nothing else, after GEE, even and QIS gets blocked, you still have QIS and WED, and that you have to miss both for Daiquat. We'll ask him about it in the post-game interview, but that was certainly interesting. And again, I just want to emphasize how creative and fun a player Jackson is for noticing these options. And there are some people who, when they see cool stuff, don't just play it because it looks cool. And Jackson actually goes through and calculates, how likely is this that I lose? How likely is this to pay off for me? Is it worth the investment? Just very impressive player. And of course, hats off to Austin too. He's made some fantastic plays this game. Well, it hasn't worked out for him. A word like Signet is so hard to see. A play like Signet through that N too. And I said earlier on, Austin is Mr. Automatic. You know, he just finds really good stuff very consistently. We saw him make really impressive plays in his first round game, and he's made some really impressive plays in this game as well.
Yeah, no, these players have both been excellent this game. It looks like Jackson elects for coins, leaving her with the E in Oxide. Although I'm not sure. Does Austin have an outplay now? It looks like Jackson blocked a butt off of Savoring and a bout off of the O. A butt up there. Got it.
And butte through the E as well.
Yep.
So that's why Jackson puts the S down, just to grab the 4 extra points of spread. 2 for putting it down and 2 for not having it on his rack.
So Austin goes out, and Jackson takes game 1 of this match. But it's such an excellent game. You see Jackson doing his virtual handshake, which is always a nice gesture.
Shaking back. Very nice sportsmanship by both players there, and a great game.